Before we dive into this case, I want to ask you a question. Look into his eyes. How can someone hate a 2-year-old child? What crime can a toddler commit that justifies torture? This case shattered me into pieces. This is the story of a child who deserved everything good in the world and got nothing but pain.
It will hopefully give us all some closure, and we can be proud of that.
I'm glad I got to at least hold him in his final moment. At least he knew in his final moment somebody he loved was actually holding him.
For the small community in Wales in 2016, that moment came when they learned what had happened to Ethan Ives-Griffiths. He was 2 years old, barely more than a baby, with his whole life ahead of him. But Ethan never got to blow out candles on his 3rd birthday cake. He never got to start school or learn to ride a bike. His life was stolen from him by the very people who should have been his protectors, his safe harbour in the storm of life. And the worst part? Every single moment of his torture was captured on CCTV, preserved forever as evidence of unthinkable cruelty. The story begins like so many others. A young mother struggling, grandparents stepping in to help care for their grandson. On the surface, it seemed like a family coming together in difficult times. But behind the closed doors of that Welsh home, something monstrous was unfolding. David and Sharon Ives had agreed to care for little Ethan. David Ives didn't see his grandson as a precious child who needed love and guidance. He saw him as a toy, an object to amuse himself with whenever boredom struck. The CCTV cameras that had been installed in the home, presumably for safety, captured everything. Every cruel game, every punishment. Every moment of Ethan's suffering was recorded in high definition, creating an archive of abuse that would later become the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. The footage told a story that words alone could never convey. It showed David Ives watching as Ethan tried to walk, his little legs still unsteady, his balance uncertain in the way all toddlers are when they're just learning to navigate the world. But instead of encouragement, instead of a grandfather's proud smile and helping hands, Ethan received mockery. The cameras captured David imitating the child's wobbly gait, exaggerating each uncertain step, turning Ethan's innocent attempts to walk into a cruel parody. His face showed amusement, entertainment at the expense of a confused and frightened child who couldn't understand why walking made the adults laugh at him instead of cheer for him. And Sharon, Ethan's grandmother, the woman who should have been his second mother, his protector. The CCTV showed her joining in. Her laughter echoed through the room as she watched her husband mock their grandson.
So I automatically found an ambulance, and then when I was on the phone to the operator, I had to put it on loudspeaker to tell us what to do. But Michael had to go and run and get a defibrillator from around the chemist.
Together, they turned a toddler's developmental milestone into a source of ridicule. The audio captured on those tapes preserved their laughter forever, a chilling soundtrack to unthinkable cruelty. But the mockery was just the beginning. The CCTV footage revealed something far worse, something that would haunt everyone who saw it. David Ives used stress positions as punishment for Ethan. Think about that for a moment. Stress positions on a 22-month-old child. The videos showed Ethan being forced to stand with his tiny hands raised above his head, balanced on the top of his... Hour after hour, this baby had to maintain this position. The timestamps on the footage proved the duration of this torture. You could see his little arms trembling with the effort. You could see his legs shaking as he tried to remain standing. You could see the exhaustion in every line of his small body. When Ethan's arms would inevitably drop, when his baby muscles simply couldn't hold the position any longer, the cameras captured what happened next. The punishment intensified. The violence escalated. And through it all, David and Sharon Ives showed no mercy, no compassion, no recognition that they were torturing a helpless child who trusted them completely. The medical evidence painted an even grimmer picture. Ethan had sustained injuries over an extended period. Broken bones that had started to heal only to be broken again. Bruises in various stages of healing, creating a colour map of ongoing abuse. Internal injuries that spoke to the severity of the violence inflicted on his small body. And now, with the CCTV footage, prosecutors could match each injury to a specific incident. The cameras had documented everything, creating an undeniable timeline of systematic torture. When Ethan finally ended up in the hospital, fighting for his life, the medical staff worked desperately to save him. Machines beeped, monitors flashed, doctors and nurses moved with urgent efficiency, trying everything in their power to keep this little boy alive. And where was his mother during all of this? The testimony from hospital staff revealed a detail so shocking that it defied belief. While her son lay in a hospital bed, his small body broken and failing, she was outside smoking cigarettes. Not chain smoking from anxiety, not pacing with worry. Just casually smoking, as if this were any ordinary day. Nurses testified that she showed no visible distress, no maternal anguish, no desperate need to be by her child's side. She seemed, in their words, disconnected and distant, as if Ethan's critical condition was merely an inconvenience rather than a tragedy. Ethan's father, meanwhile, was devastated. He had entrusted his son to people he believed would care for him, never imagining the horror that awaited.
I got the chance to hold him while he took his final breath. It was very emotional. I'm glad I got to at least hold him in his final moment. At least he knew in his final moment somebody he loved was actually holding him. We got to the hospital. Obviously I'm in high hopes that he is okay and it's not major. I had to go to the room on my own, unfortunately, and I couldn't believe it was my son. It didn't look like Ethan, because he was completely different from head to toe. There was no weight there, there was nothing of him. And then obviously the obvious fact of completely covered in bruises. It was a sight of horror.
When he learned what had happened, his world collapsed. In a victim impact statement read during the trial, his grief poured out in words that left the courtroom in tears. He spoke about the little boy he'd never see grow up, about the milestones stolen from both of them, about the unbearable weight of knowing his son had suffered so terribly. He described the nightmares that haunted him, imagining Ethan's final moments, wondering if his little boy had called out for him, if he had wondered why Daddy wasn't there to save him. In an interview after the trial, DC Lee Hershey Jones struggled to maintain his composure as he spoke about Ethan's case. He described what it was like to review the CCTV footage, to watch hour after hour of a child being systematically abused.
Bring him back, but it will hopefully give us all some closure and we can be proud of that.
You never forget something like this. The emotion in DC Hershey Jones's voice resonated with everyone who heard it. Here was a seasoned police officer, someone trained to remain objective and professional, openly crying about a case that had touched him so deeply. His tears represented the tears of an entire community. When David Ives mocked Ethan's walk and he and Sharon laughed together, the camera angles captured their faces clearly. You could see the amusement in their expressions. They were entertained by a toddler's struggle. They found joy in his confusion and fear. The footage removed any possibility of misunderstanding or alternative interpretation. This wasn't discipline gone wrong. This wasn't stress leading to a momentary lapse in judgment. This was deliberate, sustained cruelty, captured frame by frame. The prosecution built a compelling case, not just against the grandparents, but against Ethan's mother as well. While she hadn't directly inflicted the physical abuse captured on CCTV, the evidence showed she was aware of what was happening. Her shocking indifference at the hospital, casually smoking while her son fought for his life, painted a picture of someone who had long ago stopped caring about her child's welfare. The verdicts came swiftly, one after another, each one met with a mixture of relief and profound sadness in the courtroom. David Ives was found guilty of murder. The CCTV evidence left no room for doubt about his guilt or his intent. The footage showed him as the primary perpetrator, the one who inflicted the most severe violence, the one who orchestrated Ethan's torture.
I could see Ethan's legs going, so I just grabbed his arms and then I pulled him back to me, and then his legs just dropped. And I said, "Come on lad, stand up, come on." Nothing. So I've laid him down on the carpet there, shouted for his mom, and he just wasn't having any of it. I picked him up, took him outside to try and get him a bit of cold, fresh air. He wasn't having any of it. I put water on his lips and all stuff like that, rubbed his chest, his legs and stuff. Nothing. He was just staring.
Sharon Ives was also convicted of murder, her active participation captured clearly on camera. Her laughter, her presence during the abuse. She too was found guilty of causing or allowing the death of a child through her willful neglect and her conscious decision to permit the abuse to continue. All three of them who should have loved and protected Ethan. All three convicted for their roles in his death.
Has done this to him.
Would never kill my son. I was never allowed to see my mum and dad took him away from me.
You're under arrest on suspicion of murder.
So you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention one question or something later on in court.
Life in their house, in the Ives house, was a bit like a cult.
The judge's sentencing remarks were scathing and emotional. He described their actions as torture, as a betrayal of the most fundamental human obligations. He spoke directly to each of them, his voice heavy with disgust and sorrow. To David Ives, he said the cruelty captured on camera showed a man devoid of humanity and sentenced him to life in prison with a minimum terms of 23 years before he could be considered for parole. To Sharon Ives, he said her laughter would echo as evidence of her depravity and sentenced her to life in prison with a minimum of 17 years. To Ethan's mother, he said her indifference was perhaps the most incomprehensible betrayal of all, and sentenced her to 12 years in prison for her role in allowing her son's death. What haunts people most about Ethan's case is how preventable it should have been. The CCTV cameras were there, recording everything, but no one was watching in real time. 3 adults were in that home, and not one of them chose to protect him. Not one of them chose love over cruelty. His father's grief serves as a permanent reminder of what was lost, a little boy who deserved a lifetime of love but received only months of torture instead.